Good morning.
I'd like to call the Wetland Board to order and welcome all present. I'd like to start with introducing our staff. To my left over here is Crystal Way and Glenn Rowe and Olivia Hall. She's the environmental compliance. To my right is Jay Woodward with VMRC. To my left is Will Coles, Cecil Little, Bruce Julian, and Andy Ransom, and I'm Edna Revere. With that said, I'd like to call our first application up, that of Mr. Dyer. Is someone here representing him?
Yes, ma'am. Joseph Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia 22482. I'm the agent for the applicant.
Go ahead, Joey.
You don't have to read
Do you want to read
anything for me?
I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that. Dustin Dyer and Kara Joseph Scott is requesting permission to install 140 feet of stone steel, 700 square feet of clean sand nourishment, and 700 square feet of wetland plantings along the shoreline of Meyer Creek, located off Virginia State Highway 625 Slabtown Road on Meyer Creek Road, tax map number 26H17F. BMRC number 23-0519.
Yes, so this is a stone sill in front of a eroding marsh that's there. It doesn't, well, I'm assuming, I believe it doesn't qualify as a living shoreline Group 2 permit because of the existing marsh that's there that's being protected by the stone, and then also the fetch in this particular area, I believe, exceeds what's written in the code. So, so essentially, they're want to come off of the south side there, the neighbor that has the riprap, run a stone sill out in front of the marsh area that's there, go around the corner there, and then they are going to leave that little opening in between the existing revetment on the north side so that they can still continue to use that little area as a kayak launched area for access. There was some questions, or well, I talked to Olivia. I guess I wasn't able to meet you guys at site on Tuesday, and there were some questions about where access would be in terms of when they put the stone in. They won't be coming in from offshore because it's kind of shallow there, thus the long piers that are in that particular area. So they're going to use a long reach and logging mats, and I talked to the contractor yesterday, and he basically said they're going to go down the side of that, just about the side of that existing pier, and the reach of the excavator should allow them to get on either side. So they're not going to need to go all the way across. They'll be using, I think the thing has like a 52-foot reach. So, so I changed the drawings for that. Olivia's put those up there. I've got copies of that if you guys want them. Which you got them too.
We got copies.
We
We
have.
All right. You're good.
Thank you, Joey.
I just want to make sure. So yeah, I guess that was, if you have any other questions other than that, hopefully that addresses the questions that were raised about access. The marsh has a little bit of frag in it too, unfortunately, but it is what it is, so.
You finished?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Oh, yeah,
was
I have nothing
waiting.
else to say
I
unless
didn't
you got
want to cut
questions.
you off. Does anyone on the board have anything they'd like to say?
You are going to use logging mats to get across this marsh area, or?
Yeah, so the contractor is going to use logging mats. It's what they've always used, right in that area where the little upside-down L shape is. You know,
Okay.
place them as you go in and pull them up as you go out. And, you know, it typically flattens things out, but it doesn't usually do too much damage. Marshes are pretty hardy, except for when they're getting washed away, so.
Okay, thank you.
Jay, you have anything?
No, it requires a permit from VMRC because portions of it are channel water, mean low water. I will note, and Joey added to his drawings, there is a bed of SAV, submerged aquatic vegetation offshore. And you can see it kind of patchy in the aerial photos. But generally speaking, you know, the SAV bed doesn't go all the way to low water, doesn't do real well in real shallow. Gets too hot, it's too turbid, too much wave energy. So there's usually, you know, it doesn't start getting really thick in areas where it exists until it gets out beyond about the 1 foot line. So we look at this as a living shoreline project, even if there is some minor footprint that's on some SAV that's coming in. We believe that to be a reasonable impact from our standpoint. And I would just thank Joey and Olivia, and the board always needs to consider access. And you've asked in the past, is it going to be by barge, you're cutting down the bank, and how are you going to get there? So the permitting process is not just for the physical placement of the structure, but the action of placing the structure, which sometimes has some short-term temporary impacts that need to be minimized wherever they can.
Olivia, you have anything?
Just to thank Joey for getting us that revision so quickly on the access with the logging mats. It looks good, and the fetch and the existing revetment were the reasons we thought it didn't qualify for the living shoreline, but otherwise it has all the elements.
Does anyone else have anything to say?
No questions.
Entertain a
Public comment.
excuse me,
You didn't open
Public
public
comment.
comment.
public comment?
I always get
Does
scared in
anyone
case
in the
somebody's on appeal.
audience wish to speak to this application? No? Okay, then I entertain.
Anyone online?
Huh?
Anyone online? No?
No.
Good.
Usually Glenn will signal me, Crystal, you know, but, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Yeah, I'll move to approve the permit application is submitted.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, 5-0.
Thank you. Yeah, next one too.
Righty. Okay, the next online is Mr. Callis.
Yes, Joseph Scott, P.O. Box 315, Kilmarnock, Virginia, 22482. I'm the agent for the applicant.
Lynn Callis, care of Joseph Scott, request permission to install 210 feet of riprap revetment along the eroded shoreline of John Creek, located off Virginia State Highway 606, Mary Point Road on John Creek Road, tax map number 2140F, VMRC number 23-0606. Go ahead, Joey.
Yes, so this is a revetment that's on an existing very tall bank that has a whole lot of things happening there in terms of where water runs when it rains. And then also, obviously, there's some tidal stuff going on. And if you walk the shoreline, you can see where there's also seepages coming out of the bank. So I guess a combination of those three things have finally caused this area of the bank to start collapsing and falling down on that shoreline that's down there. There is there you go. There is a small channel just off of that point in that picture that goes back up into the creek there where there are more houses and piers. So That coupled with the fact that the water depth falls off extremely quickly right there, and plus the problem at the base of the bank really more is a kind of shoring it up and stabilizing it so the bank doesn't continue to clump. We've decided, talking to a contractor, that putting a revetment at the base would probably be the best thing, in hopes to get the result of what's already existing there. So the bank will kind of grade itself once there's some support at the bottom to keep it from continuing to fall in. All the work can either be, the water's deep enough there. At the particular time that I did this work, there was not a contractor specifically involved, so it can either be done by barge or it can be done by long arm excavator from the top. So access really shouldn't be a huge issue, because at the very top of the bank is lawn grass that, would get potentially impacted, and that can be seeded in straw mulch when they get out of there. So, and I guess other than that, if you have any questions.
Does the board have any questions?
I do. Joey, have you talked to the landowner about the adverse impacts of continually stripping the woody vegetation off the resource protection area?
So we talked about cutting that back, which they have done periodically. And basically, the conversation was, if you're going to cut that back, which none of it really been removed, it's just been cut back to a point where I think that kind of accelerates. And what I threw out there was this. I think this was an activity that's usually done in the fall by the folks, and I basically said, if you're going to cut it back, you really should wait till the spring. That way you still have good coverage on it over the fall. Over the winter months, when we tend to get a little bit more rain and activity like that. And then also, I did discuss the fact that, keeping as much of it up and alive is going to actually help that, because everything from behind that is washing right down through there. The pipe obviously was installed. I don't know if that's part of the easement from the road in terms of drainage that comes out of there or what, but it kind of channels it all down through there. So we definitely had a conversation about, the value of letting some of that stuff grow back up, and it would help, and help that bank as well, to not continue to, it would, at least in my opinion, slow down some of the water, the acceleration of the water when it comes out of there. So, and they were very, very agreeable to that. It was one of those things where it's, it almost seemed like we didn't quite know what we were doing. We didn't know we were doing anything that was adverse. And the homeowner actually reached out to VIMS initially. That's how she ended up talking to me, because she talked to someone from VIMS about that and sent her way about potentially trying to do something at the bottom in terms of a living shoreline, which is just really hard to do right here with the site conditions the way they are. So, and I gave her that example of what's there now, what has happened with the existing revetment, where that's kind of vegetated, and even though there's a lot of briars and stuff in it, it's better than nothing in terms of cutting it way back and letting it go right down the hill. So, and they're very, very open to that. Very, didn't have any issues with managing it a little differently, so that doesn't continue to be a problem. So,
I just would say I have no problem with your existing submission on the permit, but the amount of active erosion on that slope is definitely going to threaten their home. The sediment coming off those banks, extensive raw areas, in some of those places, are particularly up towards the point, vertical. There's no vegetation. And I certainly hope that someone can provide some technical assistance to deal with that, because there's probably more sediment coming off that slope than there is down at the toe of the slope. I agree that the toe's got to be stabilized, or else nothing above is going to work. But
right.
It's obvious the remnants of the stumps and shrubs and native vegetation being perpetually stripped is a concern to me.
Well, I think that the stone is the first step. That's when we talked about it, was that kind of get that short up at the bottom, and then have a different approach for the bank, so that you don't continue to have those problems, so.
Anyone
Any
else?
other questions for me?
Olivia? Jay?
No comment.
Anyone in the audience would like to speak? Yes. Okay, come forward, state your name for the record, please.
My name is Lynn Callis. I am the landowner. And we have had this cut back before, but not quite like it is now. And the last time it was done, it was just cut back too much. And I realized that. I had no intention that it be cut back that much. And normally, I don't have it cut back every year or even every 3 or 4 years. I mean, because it's costly to do. With the extra bad weather that we've had, and the rains, the winds, the wash up there. Also, we've had a lot of animals move in, like groundhogs and foxes, even some beaver, which I had never seen before. It's creating a lot of holes in it. And my idea was to see if we could get the riprap there, because where there was riprap previously, it was 60 feet of riprap. None of this is happening. None of this is happening where there is riprap previously, just this side of that picture. So I figured that was the solution. If there is a better technical way of securing my house, I'd like to be pointed into the direction of where I would go to get that. But for now, this was the solution that, after talking with Karen During, I had come up with. And the reason I talked with her is she guided us in our riprap of about 15 years ago. Do you have any questions for me with regard to?
Olivia?
I would just answer your question by saying there's a workshop for landowners with these kinds of issues being conducted by the Master Gardeners this month, and that might be something you want to attend.
Definitely, I would want to attend that.
There's also technical assistance available from your local soil and water conservation district and the Natural Resources Conservation Service that would help you with on-site.
What conservation?
The Northern Neck Conservation District offices in Warsaw, they can provide you some additional information and
Okay.
advice.
All right.
And incidentally, one of the master gardeners is sitting in the audience, Hunter Sled. You might want to talk to him.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
We thank you. Is anyone else?
No, ma'am.
If not, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Move the project be approved as presented.
Second, please.
I'll second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
The next on the agenda is the High Banks Association. State your name, please.
Roger McKinley, 691 Mill Point Drive, Eastville, Virginia, 22473. I'm here to represent the association in their request for a permit extension.
I'd like to read the ad, please. High Bank Association, Kill Roger McKinley. Request a permit extension of VMRC number 20-0375 to construct one 60-foot long low-profile timber groin at the downstream end of an existing groin field to replace a failed groin. The failed groin will be removed. Repairs will also be made to 6 other existing groins along the shoreline of the Rappahannock River, located off Virginia State Highway 30, Maryball Road on Highbanks Road, tax map number 34L 125, VMRC number 20-0375. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am. We came before you back in 2020 with this permit request. The downstream groin is in really a bad state of repair. So our intention was to remove that, replace it with a new vinyl groin, same length. And at that time, we were also talking about making some small repairs to the other existing groins that are in that field. They're in a real high-energy area right there on the Rappahannock River. And so I think what happened was COVID came in, they had a change of management, a new president has been elected, and I think it just has now become a central thing that they need to feel like they need to do right away. They have asked me to kind of put some specifications out there to a couple of contractors that they're talking to, which I am doing. And so we would just like to have the original permit extended. We've spoken with Jay Woodward because he will have to extend his permit as well. And that's what we're asking to do. We're also talking about doing some new riprap sills, maybe in between the existing groin field, putting in some additional sand and some plantings to try to stabilize that area. That bank was all regraded many years ago during the early stages of that development. And right out on one promontory is about a 300-year-old oak tree. And so they graded the bank and they went around the big oak tree and they graded the bank that way. And so now I think that's become a hindrance. That bank is eroding pretty badly. But for this particular application, we're just asking for an extension.
Oh, I'm holding here the VMRC permit that was issued on August the 17th, 2020, and you have certainly followed guidelines because the expiration date is August the 31st, 2023. So
Yeah,
we
you-
appreciate your thoroughness in noticing
Yes,
that.
ma'am.
And, you know, your permit that you have is still active.
Yes, ma'am. Now,
So-
your permit expires in June. Your wetlands
I
permit
know,
that you,
I'm looking at the VMRC one, and I know
yes,
ours,
ma'am.
it does expire in June, but
yeah.
anyway, I believe the permit is still current as we speak
It
until
is.
June.
That is correct.
Anyone on the board have anything they wish to say? This is a request for an extension to the permit.
Is a 3-year extension appropriate?
Is it Livia?
I think that's standard what you would do.
I'm sorry,
I think you usually do a 3-year extension.
because I think we kind of went with VMRC where we gave the 3 years and they give the 3 years and they all come together rather than one coming here and one coming there and sort of being an offset of authority. I mean,
Yeah.
so it might be the best idea to continue the 3-year extension.
That would be perfectly fine. I'm pretty sure they're going to lock down a contractor within the next 6 months, once we get all these new specifications put out there and approved. So, yeah, 3 years would be great.
Roger, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The only, in the permit, the existing permit, you're using a timber system. And then you talked about additional work that might be done, then you're gonna have to come back with another application?
That's correct, yes.
So
Not for
is there
this,
any-
not for this project, but for what we're proposing.
Is there anybody here from High Banks?
I don't know.
Cindy's behind you.
Cindy? Al?
I just, you know, it sounds like Roger's going to be offering a more comprehensive approach to the issue. And I think, Roger, I recall we talked about the longevity of the current quality of timber,
Yes.
which is going to be less than 20 years. And I think Roger can guide you well on more things that'll last a lot longer. And I would certainly encourage that. The stuff we're getting today in pressure-treated yellow pine is lucky to last 20 years. And, you know, the labor's all the same. It's the materials that are different. And hopefully, I hope, being a member of an HOA, I know it's hard to get people to pay, but it's going to cost a lot more later. I just want to make that point that I think about the only thing worse than pressure-treated timber would be used cardboard. But it's just sad to see what's happened to what used to last for a long, long time. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, I think the new proposal is for vinyl. The manufacturer guarantees that for 50 years. It's a recycled material, so it's, you know, kind of conscious of the environment. I've installed probably 5,000 feet of that material in various different iterations, and it works really well. Sometimes it gets a little discolored, and it's not real pretty after the barnacles get on it and that sort of thing, but it does hold up really well. So given the fetch and everything that's there, I'm talking to different contractors about new piling spacing, double whalers, so those types of things. And they make, excuse me, that material in thicknesses up to 5/10 of an inch thick, a half an inch basically. And so what the first contractors proposed is 3/10 of an inch, which is basically 5/16. And I think we may try to go a little heavier than that, increase the piling spacing 6 feet rather than 8 feet. And so anyway, what we're trying to do is produce a good product for them that'll probably outlast both of us.
So, but today, the extension is for what we have before us is
Yes, sir,
timber.
that's correct.
It's all we can act on, is
yep.
what's before us.
Yep.
Libby?
No comments.
Jay?
No comment.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Give me time, please.
Well, I'm trying to run our hourly rate up here.
Don't worry about it. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request for the extension. Is there a motion, please?
I think we need a date. I'd like the two dates to match. I'd like
Well,
both
that's
the
what I'm saying.
What's the date?
3 years. Am I hearing 3 years? Is that from Jay? And he's just 3 years?
I don't have the
I
permit.
know you don't, but I'm saying we're trying to
3 years is the standard. I will say that VMRC is now issuing permits for 5 years, extendable out to 10 because contractors are hard to come by, materials are hard to come by. And rather than keep running through this extension, just, the code says no permit shall be issued without an expiration date. Doesn't say how long
No.
that needs to be.
No.
But I don't have my permit in front of me to see what the actual date of that extension expiration is. You
It's-
said you had it?
It's August 31st, 2023, and our permit is June 21st, 2023. So 3 years would be June 21st, 2026.
Okay, a date, June 27th,
21st, June 21st, 2026.
2027, expiration date. Okay.
What year?
2024, 2027.
27, 3 years.
Me confused.
23.
Yes, 2027.
20,
23. 24, 25, 26.
Okay, 26.
26.
Okay, I thought 26, 2026 is the expiration date. Giving you my.
All right.
Okay, do I have a motion to that?
I'll make a motion to approve the extension for a period of 3 years.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Okay, thank you. All right. The next on the agenda is docks of the bay. Someone here representing that?
Thank you all.
Thank you, Roger.
Is anyone here representing docks of the bay? We don't have a representative.
You're talking about Ronald George and Marion Walker?
Yeah. It's handled by, well, where's, it's not a representative here for them either, is it?
Who was the original agent? Was it Docks of the Bay was the original agent?
Yes.
There been communication with them, Olivia?
Yeah, Mr. Marquetti asked for the extension.
I mean, does he realize he's supposed to be here?
I believe so.
If not, I think we'll have to delay it.
Do you want me to call him and see if we can just get him on the phone?
Well, the thing of it is, I know in the past, if there's no one here representing it, where anyone on the board or state agencies or whatever, they're not available to ask questions or concerns, I think we're gonna have to, whatever you, postpone it until next meeting, because we don't know what, there's no one here representing.
I would only offer the fact that providing there's no change, there was nothing wrong with the original permit, and all they're asking for is more time. I'm not sure, I don't have any other questions.
Well,
Yeah, it's the same permit, it's the same project that you all permitted previously.
same footprint.
Right, no
It
changes.
has, you know, I mean, by its nature, it's an extension of the existing
Okay,
permit.
we can do that.
There should not be any changes.
Request for the, I don't see why we can't do that.
Is that correct, Olivia? The only request is for the exact same work and only to ask for an extension. Is that correct?
That is correct. No work has been done to date, and they're asking for an extension on the exact application made in 2020.
Okay, well, I can deal with that. Anyone in the audience have anything to say about it? Our audience is dwindling down. No one in the audience? You don't have any concerns?
No, ma'am.
Jay? He doesn't apparently.
What was the original permit? What date?
The original permit date was expiring August 23rd, 2023.
Did you have a full presentation on this one?
Yes.
Back then? Yeah.
Might as well go through it.
Okay. Edna, do you want to read the ad?
Yes. Ronald George and Marion White is requesting a permit extension of BMRC number 20 excuse me, 1154 to replace 70 linear feet of timber bulkhead, replace a 32-foot long by 10-foot wide pier with a 20-foot long L head, construct a 32-foot long boat ramp jetty, and repair a concrete boat ramp located along Poison Creek, located off Virginia State Highway 0200 Chesapeake Drive on Little Bay Road. tax map number 35-138, BMRC number 20-1154.
Okay. We have their original drawings on the screen for you, and they have no changes to these. Bulkhead profile with sand backfill, vinyl sheeting, 10-foot section there.
Okay, no further concerns, do I hear a motion?
Well, maybe there's someone on the line.
Oh, okay. Glenn, do we have anyone online? Okay. All right. I'll extend the motion for the extension request.
I'll make a motion to extend for a period of 3 years from the original date, provided the application is identical, that the work approved is the same as the original permit.
Okay, second, please.
Second.
Go ahead.
All in favor, signify. Okay, 5-0. Okay, thank you. Now, the next. Together. Review of policy memorandum 57, wetland permit application compliance checklist. Okay?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to that.
Okay.
I want to thank Olivia for putting together this well-researched of the code. She's taken my thunder because I did some work on it too. But last session, I had questioned a couple of items on the new checklist that went before the board of supervisors and was subsequently approved as part of the permit application, wetlands permit application. And one of those items that Olivia has brought up is, and I'll read it, most recent land survey plat by a licensed land surveyor. I had a problem with licensed land surveyors. There's a lot of properties in this county that do not have a land survey. And I did speak with the Don Gill, and he was under the impression, he's not here to talk to it, but he was under the impression that there was some words added to that, if available. And this board, all it normally has, it is required that we have a plat plan. So I would recommend that we add the words "if available" to that one item.
She's already added it, I think, haven't you?
No, that's just an edit, so you would need to vote if you want that added there.
The red marks are staff comments.
Correct.
Yeah.
The red marks are staff comments.
That's right, the red marks are staff comments. I checked anything that I felt, in my opinion, needed to stay, whether that be it already is part of the JPA application or part of our original memo 57, and where that's the case, it's indicated in red to the right of the comment. Some of the other items are specific to Chesapeake Bay Act preservation and are also required, as well as some notes on erosion and sediment control measures. Those will be required for certain projects, and Nancy Davis also asked to see erosion and sediment control measures as well, where it's suitable. So I would suggest that that stays. There were a couple other changes. Specifically, I had heard feedback from multiple agents that property boundaries are staked at mean high tide was a concern for them. They felt like because they weren't licensed land surveyors, they didn't want to be staking property boundaries. So that's something else you could consider striking if you want, but we can leave that up for your debate. And then the items that aren't checked, there were a few. One specifically was site access determination. I wasn't sure exactly what was meant by that, but that's something we can discuss. And then the last item that's not checked would be the statement attesting to the proposed project complies with all ordinances of Lancaster County and codes of Virginia. That's standard language that we have asked for on engineered plans that are submitted to us. So I don't have a problem including that in our language. The state had advised us as a rural locality, in part of accepting our erosion and sediment control plans, to have PEs add that to the front of our plans. So I think that's the idea of where that language originally comes from. I have no other comments.
I had one more question last session. It had to do with planting plan for all vegetation. It identified species, amount, spacing, maintenance, planning schedule, and replacement. I don't think that's, and I could be, may stand corrected, but I don't have a problem with planting plan for all vegetation, but to identify and to have a planning plan and a replacement plan, I think is way over the top.
As part of the BAC compliance, their planting plan does include the species information and the amounts. And usually they do a sketch which would include spacing. Planting schedule is also included on the water quality impact assessment, which may be required for some of these projects. In terms of replacement and maintenance, those are two things we could strike if you wanted to, because that's not necessarily something that's on that form.
So you're saying you feel it's all right to take that the specific species and amount and so on out?
We could strike all that if you wanted and just say planting plan for all vegetation, and just let the WQIA cover it, or you could simply strike the words maintenance and replacement. Or you could leave it whole.
So what does the board feel? Any comments?
Do you want to vote on each change individually?
What's that?
Do you want to vote on each change individually?
Well,
Well, if everyone's read it and it's agreeable and all, and you, our compliance office, I mean, if she feels that we don't need something or whatever, how does the rest of us feel? I think whatever, if she's pointed out something that, well, Cecil, I think what she's saying is correct and all, and I appreciate, everything, but if everyone's gone over this list, and it's no question, and she's highlighted things, how does the board feel about just not taking each one independently? Or just voting on the,
I think that'd be a good idea.
huh?
I think that would be a good idea,
What, to vote independently
yeah.
on each thing?
Just on the changes that you would like? Do you want to propose any changes, Cecil?
Well,
Is there anything that, in reading this, that,
how about if I make a motion to add the words to the land surveyor, excuse me, if available? Is that acceptable
it's
to
right
the
here,
board?
a licensed surveyor.
If it's available.
It's in red because it's
I'm sorry,
proposed
available.
language.
It's already on here,
It's proposed language.
ma'am.
It's
No.
proposed language, if available is proposed. So that would be a change you would vote, so the motion would be to approve to add the wording if available.
The one in red is where she put it down.
Yeah,
I'm just saying we need to add those words, if available.
well, you can do that, it's already on here, but if you need to, whatever.
Right, if the board would like the change, you would need to vote on it. So we just need a motion from the board to make the change, to add the wording if available and then a vote.
Yes, let
Okay.
make a motion to change the wording or add, if available, to the item, most recent land survey plat by a licensed land surveyor.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Okay. So we're proving this as we speak, right now. Is that, am I on the same page with you?
Well, I think you're going, to whatever changes are made are going to have to be reissued by County Administrator Gill.
I know that, because we can't administer, we can have thoughts, but it has to come under
The step one is this.
the Administrative Board of Supervisors for approval. you know.
Well, I can also
Well,
add to
Don
that,
Gill has already approved this according to the signature on the back.
I can also add to that motion to have this approved checklist, number 57 memo sent to, through the staff to Don Gill, the county administrator, to be forwarded on to the Board of Supervisors for approval to place the new item number 57 as a requirement for the permit, permit application.
Okay. Did you want any other changes?
I'm sorry?
Did you want any other changes? Do you want any other changes?
Do you want anything else changed? Do you want anything else?
Oh, well, I think we need to run that by the rest of the board. What does the board think about planning plan for all vegetation and deleting the rest of the requirements? Any comments?
I don't see where that planning plans,
That's on the second page.
oh, yeah, any removal. Oh, yeah. Right, planning plan for all vegetation. Oh,
See, this is Olivia, the red is Olivia's comments.
Yeah.
yeah, if applicable. But I guess what you choose to plant is your availability of where you're going to plant it. Because everything, you can't plant this in certain areas. Excuse me, so I would think of the agent, or of the homeowner, or whomever, would, because most of the time you have all of these plants anyway from like Bim's or nursery or something of different natures.
I'd like to add to that motion to keep planning plan for all vegetation and strike species, amount, spacing, maintenance, planting schedule, and replacement. Second?
Hey, do I have, hear a second? All,
I'll second.
okay, and the second, so all in favor, signify by raising your right hand. Okay?
Opposed?
Opposed?
4 yes and 1 opposed.
The property boundaries are staked at the mean high tide. Normally, when we go out and look at a project, we look for those stakes to find out where the property lines are. I don't have a problem keeping that in there,
Okay. If you all want to keep it, we can definitely keep it in there.
yeah. So I move to keep the property boundaries are staked at the mean high tide. Second?
Well, we don't need to vote on, we only need to vote on changes, correct?
Correct. So I think we can keep that. So are there any other changes, or?
If the changes are made and everybody's in compliance, in agreement, we can vote on it at one time.
There's only two amendments being made.
Yeah,
We don't need to vote on everything. It stays the same.
yeah.
You're only amending, making 2 amendments, correct?
Correct,
Those are done.
correct.
Well, let me rephrase that motion. I move to keep the existing memo 57 and to strike most recent to add to most recent land survey plat by a licensed land surveyor if available. Secondly, I move to keep planting plan for all vegetation and strike species, amount, spacing, maintenance, planting schedule, and replacement. All other items will remain the same. The board or the staff is instructed to send this to Don Gill and subsequently send it to the Board of Supervisors to be revised.
We've already voted on the 2 changes. I do not see why we have to vote, have a motion for process. Crystal? Yeah.
You have already voted on if available adding and striking species and all the words after that, and gotten second from Bruce and Andy. The only thing we don't have a second on is what Cecil just said about now sending the document back to Don or to the board of supervisors.
Do we need a motion for that? Isn't that a process automatic?
I'm just going by, he's made another motion, so it's on the floor.
You just need a second motion to send it to Dawn.
Do you need a second motion?
I don't, but he made the motion, so
But
do
I'm
you want to
saying
do that?
we have to do a complete motion on that, or,
I don't believe you need a motion. I'm going to take it to Dawn either way.
ma'am?
I'm going to take it to Dawn for his approval.
Okay. But, so you want us to make a motion?
Cecil did make a motion.
Huh?
Cecil made a motion. If you want to do it that way, you just need to ask for a second.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Motion.
Okay, all in favor? All right,
Opposed?
and opposed is one.
I abstain. This is-
Abstaining. Well, whatever, we just trying, Bruce,
You
we're
don't-
trying to get through this.
No kidding. I've spent a year on this, Edna.
I don't care how many years are spent, we will go by the codes of this county. So, on the 2 things, it was 4 yes, yay, and 1 nay. Okay, and Olivia will take care of the rest. Crystal, is that all we need, babe? Okay,
And you just need to approve the meeting minutes from the last meeting.
okay. Do I hear approval of the minutes from the February meeting, please?
Move that we approve the minutes.
Okay?
Second.
Okay.
We all agree?
Meeting adjourned. Okay, the
second.
meeting's adjourned.
Can I make a comment or just a question to the board?
Yes,
Is that appropriate?
yes.
Hello, board members. My name is Doug Lyle. I live in Bertrand. And after hearing the process today, I think I might be jumping the gun a little bit. But I wanted to get, let's call it an advice from the board for an inquiry about the possibility of putting in a boat ramp on my property. I apologize for not sending something ahead of time. I sent Ms. Hall an email yesterday because I just saw the request for a written, what I was going to say today in writing, and I didn't send it till yesterday because I only reread the notice yesterday to see that. But I have some printed copies of what I could show you, and since I'm not asking for a permit right now, I know that the rumor out there is that there's a reluctance to issue permits for private boat ramps. And I would like to know from the board if it is possible at my property to go start the process of permitting. And I would like to know what the odds are before I do that, since that's a rather expensive process to begin with.
Well,
And,
sir, go ahead.
oh, well, one of the things that I think would ease the possibility of getting a permit issued is that the site where I'm looking to do it already has riprap, and it's very close to the water level anyway. I'm quite a bit of distance from Thomas Landing, which is the closest public boat ramp, and it's not really conducive for me getting boats in and out of there. So I'm not looking for anything really official right now, but I'm looking to see if this is a possibility and worth going down that road. It's a large piece of property. I have about 3,000 feet of shoreline, and so I'm looking at maybe 10 to 12 feet of existing riprap where I was thinking of doing it. So I guess what I'm looking for is just what your thoughts on the matter is. If I start the process, is there at least a possibility? I know we're talking, I'm sorry, go ahead.
My suggestion, he needs to present a JPA to the board, which will go to Jay. They will look at it, they will send it to us, and this board will look at it.
Right, that's something we can discuss
But if
prior
you
to coming to the
start
board.
ahead
Okay.
of time,
Absolutely.
correct me, Olivia, if you choose to start this ahead of time, you can be in violation, and you can be called before this board.
This is why I'm asking now, I would imagine.
No,
Oh.
you need to, she's our compliance officer.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm wrong, I stand corrected. I think the first thing you need to do is see Olivia and get the materials that you need to fill out to apply for an application for your boat ramp.
Okay,
And she will advise you, and it can keep you out of a lot of trouble.
that's fine, absolutely. I will talk to her after the
Because
meeting.
you can't just go down and say, oh, yeah, well, I'm gonna put some riprap here today, and,
Oh, the riprap is previously,
well,
Permitted
whatever the
and-
case may be, if you do it without a permit, you can be in bad trouble.
exactly. That's why I'm kind of inquiring now as to the proper process.
Just to clarify, I don't know if there's anything within the board's policy or guidelines that preclude private ramps, but it's been my understanding that they are not necessarily supported. Unfortunately, so much of this is a case-by-case basis, and unless there is something in your ordinance, like at the county level for boathouses, that says no new boathouses, but I hear where you're coming from, but I don't know that there is anything in writing that will say if you apply, you'll get it, or if you apply, you won't get it. And unfortunately, the application process is sort of the mechanism by which everybody reviews it, so.
Well, this is where I wanted to start,
Yeah.
just to make sure I was starting correctly. So I will talk to Ms. Hall when the meeting is concluded.
This lady right here,
Yep, okay, well, thank you for your time.
she'll send you down the straight path.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Well, we all adjourned, so. I thank all of you.
Anticipate a meeting next month?
Pardon?